This is a Porsche that was brought to us because someone just bought it and it hasn't run in 5 years. I got to get it to run. We've done a little bit to it, but it's been weird with the shop, so I haven't really been on this side messing with stuff, but now I can be. It had low oil. We put oil in it. We looked over the fuel system to make sure there wasn't any kind of corrosion in there, you know, rust, any of that stuff. It actually looked beautiful. Drained the bad fuel that was out of it, poured new fuel in it, made sure the battery was working, and you know, we didn't have any fires with the battery on. We got all of that stuff taken care of, went to crank it, and then while we were cranking it, it wasn't starting. So I was like, all right, well, next easiest thing is brake clean. So we got some brake cleaner starting fluid and sprayed it in there, cranking, 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 try again, cranking, 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 try again, one more time. Still didn't work. So fuel, I'm gonna mark out of it. And so now I'm thinking that we have a spark problem. And I'm gonna show you what I found just kind of looking over the engine bay. We took the filter out because we were gonna spray brake clean in it. But these are just bungee cords sitting in here, more bungee cords. The wiring is, this one's got a weird solder joint that's missing off of it. These mate into here, and then this one is actually weirdly soldered into nothing or something in that. There's just wires disconnected back here. I'm guessing this is like a vacuum pump or an air pump or something like that. I think we're onto something with the electrical side of it being wrong, but now we're going to go over what we can find. I did print out a wiring diagram for this, which is just a giant piece of paper, and run down the test of that. Once we get it fired, then it's going to be, okay, how's the engine sound? Do we have any bad noises? Are we just going to take it down and reseal it? And then we've got, you know, suspension stuff to do and other things like that. But I'm really excited about technically my first air-cooled Porsche. So this is what I printed out, and I taped it all together. That way everything lined up. And so I started looking over it, and you have to go off of these letters, and then the letters have little numbers on them, and that tells you where like things are. Like this one is V4 and that one is G19 and whatever, and I have to look through this. So I did find the distributor, which is this thing. So this is the distributor here. And these are the wires and spark plugs, I'm guessing, and then down there. This is the coil, and then this is a little like electrical distributor thingy to get to the coil. So first things first is I'm going to check to see if this is getting power. And I'm guessing from what I can tell that this is just going to ground from what, you know, it's just the coil to ground. I don't think this really has a computer in it. So that's going to be the first check, is power here and then down to whatever this N15 is. High tension ignition unit. Yep. I'm guessing this is the B side of the coil because it goes straight to ground. And then this is the power side that's coming from the car. So we're going to double check and make sure that this wire is getting power when the key is on. No power. All right, any wiggle here? No power, no power, no power. Okay, so we definitely have no power there. So we don't have spark, that's for sure. This should be the high tension ignition unit that it's referencing that gives power to the coil. I'm pretty sure this red wire is it. I'm gonna double check, but of course I printed black and white. The dark one is the one that has power going to it, so I'm guessing that's the red one. But I'll probably unplug that and we'll just check all of them. Because there should be voltage going into it, and then one of those white lines or white wires should go to this. And I believe this black one that's still plugged in right now is a ground. It does look like it has some creepy green death on it. We'll have to check that. Size? Are you the right? Yes, you are. All right. So red, when key on, should have voltage. We have voltage. So that means that that's getting power. So then we gotta back probe the other ones while they're plugged in, because it shouldn't be sending voltage to the other ones because they're unplugged. So I'm trying to make a step in there, that way I can plug it in, everything should work the right way, and then I can just test each one while it's plugged in. I have these jumpers here. 2 of them I can test with, 1 of them I can't. The one that I can't test with, I hooked up to the red wire, and I did this so that it's technically plugged in, but I can just check for voltage on the 2 white wires and see if we have anything. So this one is the front white wire, and then that other black one is the rear white wire. So we're gonna see if we get anything going there, and then the next test will be resistance to figure out which white wire goes to this one. So we have nothing on that white wire. We have nothing on either white wire. Let me figure out which one is supposed to go to this, and then the next test I'm going to do is whether or not this ground is actually working properly or if it has too much corrosion on it. So we still have it on the rear white wire because I don't know which one's going to be the one to the coil. And, oh, come on, clamp on. Oh, I see stuff. Look at that. So that wire is connected. So we'll just make sure that the front white one doesn't go to it because we don't need any wires that are crossed or any of that stuff. It does go to it, so both go to that. I am going to have to look at the wiring diagram because I'm not sure if both should go to that. Because one was 1.7 ohms and the other one's 0.2, which 0.2 is like, that's the one. 1.7 is like, it's connected. This was the coil, right? This is that blue box. And so B, I'm guessing, is the one in between because we have A, B, C, D, and D, I'm guessing, is the ground one. So A is the one that goes to the coil, and that's the one that had 1.7 ohms. C goes over here to this, down, across, and then I'm guessing this is some sort of switch. I'm not sure if it actually deals with the distributor because this is the distributor, but it goes over here. So this one shouldn't be connected to A as far as I can tell with this. It does come up here and go all the way over to G5, which is the tachometer. So that would be the signal for the RPM, which probably tells this either that it's cranking or something, but C having a better connection to A doesn't seem right. D does go straight to ground, so I'm going to check that, and then we're going to peel back some of the tape and see if we can find anything that might be causing these two to connect. I had a thought while walking over to the car, and what if this is connected through the center, which granted it still has to go through that wire, so it making better connection doesn't make any sense. This one over here, this far one could be C, and this one could be A that I'm on. We don't know which direction the ABC goes. So I'm just going to disconnect that. Okay, nothing there. So that was the blue box side. So obviously the wire through there goes straight to the coil. So let me grab this one and we'll disconnect the side that goes to the blue box and see if that goes through. Because this is the worst side, which would make sense if this was C. Nope, that's still connected. So somewhere behind this, as it goes in there, is still connected to it. I unplugged the ground that I'm guessing, and it's actually, it might be a shielding ground because it looks like it wraps around the white wires, and it is open to ground. So that means that nothing is, oh wait, 39 million ohms. Now we're gonna have to peel this back and see where we go for wires and where everything is, because if this is supposed to be a ground, that's why this box isn't working. Following the diagram, right, this one says it comes out of the box and it splits in two, and it does. It goes to both of these white wires, and it's supposed to go to ground. Does not go to ground, has ridiculous ohms, so on and so forth. So I was like, you know what? What is this? And so I just plugged it into the pin for the ground one on the blue box, and to ground. It's grounded. Now, it doesn't, nothing on there says that the blue box is supposed to be grounded. So I'm wondering if somehow it's failed in that aspect and something inside of it is now grounded when it shouldn't be, but we're not having any fires, so I don't really know if that's a problem. So it might actually just ground through the box with this shielding wire. I got everything opened up, and this wire, which is the one that has 0.2 or 0.5 or, you know, whatever low, that one is not touching anything other than the grounding wire, the grounding shield wire. And this is the one that goes into that connector for the tachometer, and then comes all the way down here. This one goes all the way over here to the distributor. And actually, now I just have it to ground, and it's still the same. So this is one side of the coil, the other side of the coil. And I was like, maybe it's like shorted internally. So I took the coil wire off, and that didn't change anything. So now I'm just going to unplug this, and then it would just tell me that it's literally, yep. So it's grounding through the distributor, and it's coming, the ground path goes all the way through the coil. What I'm thinking is going on, I don't think the distributor is causing a problem currently, maybe. That blue box, however, isn't sending any voltage to the coil, and everything on this side looks like it's working. So I can assume that that is bad, but the next thing that I'm going to do is unbolt that, and we're going to just bench test it because it doesn't need to be in there for that. We have 228,000 ohms. So there is something there. I don't know how much it's supposed to have, but let's just see what's supposed to go to A, or what is going to A. 231,000 ohms. And then C is 99 ohms. Well, I'm gonna do a little research because I have no idea what these are supposed to be. So that's good. So the coil's good. So the next thing is, I did find out that C goes to not only the distributor, but the points system. So right now, I'm gonna unplug that, because the points actually, when it goes through here and it triggers, it goes into this and it tells it to continue, right? So let me just pop this open. See the points on this side. Let me get a screwdriver, and essentially it should be grounding when closed. And then I should be able to push the points open. Maybe I can do it with my finger. Open, closed. Oh, open, pretty much nothing, closed. Because right now, I mean, there was some other tests that you could do with hooking stuff up in a battery and putting a spark plug here and this and that. I'm kind of at the point of, if everything else looks okay, this is the only thing that I can see. And they do have aftermarket or, you know, remanufactured CDI box other than the high tension ignition unit. So if there's no voltage coming out of this, then we have a problem. Ready? Yeah.
I don't see it opening.
No? Okay. So cranking it, we were trying to see if the points could open. And as you can see, it's spinning, and that little tab thing that I was pushing my finger isn't moving at all. And you can kind of see it. There's a hex piece on there, and it's a hex because this is a 6-cylinder, so it's got 6 corners. And those corners are supposed to push the points open. And how these distributors work is when the points goes open, the power coming into it, that goes to the spark, or the, you know, it sparks to the spark plug when it opens, so that it knows, okay, now. And then when it's not open and you don't want the spark to happen, that's when it's fully closed and fully at ground. So currently it is 100% grounded 100% of the time, which means there's no spark happening. Now, I did also read while researching this CDI thing, if something ever happens where like a spark plug, it sparks and it's not grounded or any of that other stuff, it can cause damage in the CDI box, which could be why we're not seeing any voltage going through it. And like I said, I couldn't find anything resistance-wise, so I don't know if the 230,000 ohms is actually correct for the coil side. I have to pull the distributor to set the points, because normally you would turn the crank until it gets to the little point on there, and you get a gap of whatever, 10 thousandths, somewhere in that range. That way it, you know, has space in between it, but we can't get to the crank pulley bolt. So I decided to look up a new CDI box and a new distributor just because I was like, well, let me know what it could be if we end up going that route. I'm not going to get into how much they cost. The other thing too is it said ships in 3 or more weeks. And I was like, well, we have time to screw around. So I'm going to take the distributor out and then we're just going to see what we can do. We're going to stab it back in. So I've rigged up our little points setting system. So right now, actually, when it moves, it does the points thing. However, I'm wondering if it's not enough of a gap. So I've got 2 thousandths here. Wouldn't you figure? It's actually supposed to be 10 times what it is right now. So 14 thousandths is what we're supposed to be sitting at for the gap. So I'm just gonna shove that in between there actually. It's actually slightly snug on 14 thousandths. So that's a much bigger gap than we had before. The other thing too is how long it's open is substantial compared to where before it was literally at that peak, it was open. So the spark was like, right? Where now as it's going, it's spark. All right. Everything is back on where it hopefully should be, other than the tape on the wires, but I'm not worried about that currently. Okay, I'm gonna see if I have a spare spark plug and maybe we can just
See what happens.
see if it's got spark now and watch this spark plug for me. Anything? Nothing. I mean, everything is pointing at that. Needs a CDI. I'll talk to him about a new distributor if he wants to do that. That's really on him. I can't rule this one out. We're gonna call that and then see if he wants to do anything before we get it running, or if we still just wanna wait until we get it running, and then I'll kind of put the wheels back together and move on to another project. That went out. So they just have the same little bump, same 3, same little ground. However, this one actually has some LED lights to help identify issues. Plugged in. Yes, wires are open, but nothing's in the way. Distributor is where it should be, and now it's adjusted. Everything else should be working. Instead of just sitting here and checking wires, I'm just gonna try it first, and then if it doesn't start, then we'll check the wires for voltages and all that. Oh, we got some life in this thing. Oh no. All right.
Guess what?
I don't know what the smoke is from. I'm gonna guess it's not from coolant.
I think it's the exhaust.
It could very well be the exhaust that's smoking. I'm also, because we've tried so much, I'm wondering if it's also just flooded.
I gotta move.
So it has started in a explosion-y fashion, but no explosion. It has been sitting for 5 or 6 years. We've tried to start it a lot. I don't know how much other people have tried to start it. The one thing that I'm considering is, I mean, we did have to add a bunch of oil in it, but I'm also considering that maybe the oil leaked past the rings. Possible. Maybe the rings are seized. It did sit for a long time. I'm gonna at least tell them that there was no banging noises, just a bunch of smoke. So I don't know what the smoke is from at this point. It did run, it did rev. So as for diagnostic, I was correct. The CDI was the problem. A new distributor will help, but not necessarily needed. From this point on, I'm gonna talk to the customer. I'm gonna see what he wants to do from here, but at least I know that we don't have to like do bearings. We don't have to do rod bearings or main bearings, because there's no any scary noises like that. We just have to try and figure out what the smoke is from this point on, which could be valve seals, it could be a bunch of stuff. Thanks for watching. Check out the rest of the channel, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. There will be more with this Porsche for sure.
Subscribe!